How's this for a headline? A test match where nobody won, and yet everyone remembered it forever. Welcome to the Tide Test, Australia versus West Indies, 1960. Only the second Tide Test in the history of the game. It was the third test of that series played in Barbados. The home team, West Indies, won the toss and decided to bat first. And they got off to a flyer, 214 runs in the first innings, thanks to a brilliant century from their captain, Sir Frank Worrell. Australia, in reply, were all out for 182. So the Windies went into lunch on day 2 with a lead of 32 runs. Then something happened that no one expected. Australia came out after lunch and proceeded to bowl out West Indies for just 96 runs. Australia now had a lead of 130 going into their second innings. At this point, it looked like they would win easily. But then West Indies fought back. They took 7 Australian wickets and with 20 runs needed to win off the last 2 balls of the match. They had Australia exactly where they wanted them, needing a miracle to avoid an outright defeat. Enter the last man, Richie Benaud. He hit the first ball for 4. Now Tide match. It's a Tide match. And what a way to make it tied, because we never thought it was possible. How about this for drama? 5 days of play, more than 240 overs and 130 runs had made all the difference. That's when the unthinkable happened. West Indies got a wicket off the very next ball. This is unbelievable. Can you imagine the pressure? Can you imagine the emotions? Nobody could believe it. Richie Benaud finishes the match with a boundary. Australia wins by 6 wickets. What a finish to an exciting test match. Tie matches are rare in any format of the game, let alone in test cricket. In fact, there was only one tie before this one. That was between South Africa and India in Durban in 1928. And there's only been one tie since then. India versus West Indies in 1997. 1 run was the margin of victory or defeat in each of those 3 matches. So it just goes to show how evenly balanced things can be in the game of cricket. And this match was no different. After 5 days of play, Australia had scored 274 runs in their first innings, West Indies 214. Australia had taken a first innings lead of 60 runs. In their second essay, the West Indies were all out for 173, setting Australia a victory target of 114 runs. At this point, Australia were firm favourites. They had 7 wickets in hand and 114 runs to win. All they needed was a few boundaries, but West Indies had other ideas. They fought back splendidly and reduced Australia to 846, needing 20 runs to win with 2 wickets in hand. Now Australia's tail wagged. The last 2 batsmen added 20 runs and Australia won the match by 8 wickets. This match could have gone either way. It had everything: drama, excitement, tension, a bit of controversy, and in the end a result that nobody saw coming. Who would have thought that a test match could end in a tie? How often do you see a result like that in sports? It's almost like watching a movie script. You think you know how it's going to end, but bam, something else happens. The West Indies batted first in the third test and scored 214. Their captain, Frank Worrell, played a brilliant knock of 117. Australia, in reply, were all out for 182. The West Indies thus went into the second day with a lead of 32 runs. They bowled out Australia for 274 in their second essay, setting them a victory target of 114 runs. At this point, Australia were firm favourites. They had 7 wickets in hand and 114 runs to win. But West Indies had other ideas. They fought back splendidly and reduced Australia to 846, needing 20 runs to win with 2 wickets in hand. With their backs against the wall, Australia's last pair added 20 runs and Australia won the match by 8 wickets. Nobody really dominated the match. Each team had their moments. Australia had the edge on day 1, West Indies on day 2, Australia again on day 3, West Indies on day 4, and Australia held their nerve on the last day. As a result, the series ended in a 1-1 draw. And do you know who was the man of the match? Neither Worrell nor Benaud, but a young man called Rohan Kanhai. He scored 192 runs in the match and also took 5 Australian wickets. In fact, Kanhai was only the second player to take a 5-wicket haul in a tied test. The first was his own teammate, the legendary Lance Gibbs. These 2 players were the architects of West Indies' fightback. If not for them, the result may have been different. So remember this result the next time someone tells you that cricket is a boring sport. Tell them to watch this video and relive one of the most exciting encounters in the history of the game. I'll be back soon.